Well, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for coming out this afternoon on this beautiful day. I'm Carmen Colangelo, the Ralph J. Nagel Dean of the Sam Fox School of Design and Visual Arts. Thank you for being here today for the installation of Professor Sung-Ho Kim as the Raymond E. Maritz Professor of Architecture. I'm deeply grateful to be able to gather in person with you today as we recognize the truly stellar work of Sung-Ho Kim. Endowed professorships are among the highest honors Washington University can bestow on a faculty member. They reflect our deep appreciation for the profound contributions the recipient has made to Washington University, to his or her field of research, to creative activity, and to society. Sung-Ho will become part of a large community of individuals at Washington University and faculty members of the Sam Fox School who hold endowed professorships in recognition of their extensive work and substantial contributions to the body of knowledge in their field of study. With today's installation, we recognize Sung-Ho Kim for his innovative, powerful, and cutting-edge work in the field of architecture and for a sustained record of excellence in teaching and for his dedicated service to the Sam Fox School. Sung-Ho is well known for his intense work ethic. Students are here, they know that. And deep commitment to architecture and design education. He's played a critical role in advancing the school's efforts in emerging technology and interdisciplinary research in computer science and biology. He embodies the collaborative spirit of the school. He is a great colleague and a super sweet guy. Oh, it's true. As we come together to recognize Sung-Ho today, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to many guests who join us today from across the campus, as well as friends and family, most especially Sung-Ho's family. I'd like to recognize his partner, of course, Heather Woofter, and their son, Evan, as well as Sung-Ho's mother, who's here with us today, Min Ja Kim. If you could stand or wave and be recognized. I'd also like to recognize Cynthia Weiss, who's Dean Emerita of the College of Architecture, and I believe hired Sung-Ho, so thank you for that. Let's recognize Dean Cindy Weiss. We are also joined by many of Sung-Ho's university colleagues and friends, both in person and celebrating along with us virtually. I'm grateful to our Sam Fox community. Our efforts in the areas of architecture, art, and design are among the most important ways in which Washington University advances positive change in St. Louis, across the nation, and throughout the world. I'm confident in the years ahead, the Sam Fox School will continue to be a global leader in critical areas, and I'm confident that Sung-Ho will play even a bigger role, a critical one, in shaping the efforts in sustainable design and digital transformation. As noted in the program, Raymond E. Maritz was an important architect in St. Louis who studied at Washington University and established a leading firm that later became known as Maritz & Young. Maritz & Young designed a large number of residences on Forsyth, Brentmore, and Carlsworth, including the one that I live in, maybe the one Beverly lives in too, I'm not sure. He also was a part of a number of large projects, including the Clayton City Hall, Westwood, and Hillcrest Country Clubs, and he was part of a design team for the Temple for United Hebrew Congregation on Skinkard Boulevard. Mr. William Maritz and his wife Jackie endowed this professorship in 1997, named for his uncle, Raymond E. Maritz. Professor Adrian Lucchini held the Raymond E. Maritz possession, or holds Raymond E. Maritz Professor of Architecture since that time, for an amazing 26 years. How old were you again when you started? In his role, Adrian has had a profound impact on every aspect of the College of Architecture. As Adrian heads into phased retirement, I would like to recognize his accomplishments and invite Adrian Lucchini to the stage to help pass the baton and introduce Sung-Ho Kim. Adrian.
Well, good afternoon again, everybody. Thank you much for coming. It's wonderful to be here. I had the good fortune to befriend the Merritt's family and will forever be indebted to their generosity. This happened actually in a kind of a anecdotal, funny way. I met Phyllis Merritt's when I sold them a birdhouse. We had just moved to St. Louis, and there was a charity that requested young architects to design birdhouses that then were purchased by various people. And it turns out that the one that I designed was purchased by the Merritt's. And that's how I met them. I asked them, oh, would you mind if I come over to your house and help you position the birdhouse in your yard? And that's how we met. So it came as a total surprise to me when I learned that I was going to be the Raymond E. Merritt's chair. To know now that my good friend and colleague Sung Ho Kim is my successor fills my heart with happiness because I have known him since he started teaching at our school in 2001. Throughout the years, we had ample opportunities to collaborate in various committees, to exchange ideas, to co-teach courses and embrace similar principles and causes related to the well-being of our school. Sung Ho is a humble man, not particularly comfortable in the limelight, right, Sung Ho? And this demeanor might misrepresent the caliber of his talent and his passion for architecture and education, which is truly commendable. He navigates with ease between the worlds of teaching and practice, a demanding formula that, in my opinion, requires higher amounts of enthusiasm and perseverance to happen. Sung Ho does it naturally, with outcomes that reveal excellence and depth. His work in practice and classroom denotes formal virtuosity, spatial complexity, and a tireless intent to push the boundaries of architectural design. In times like these, when we are asked to expand and compromise in so many ways, it is more important than ever to stay the course and to hold high the fundamental principles of higher education, which should be, among others, to seek excellence and to invest yourself 100% in the pursuit. Sung Ho has always held these principles at the forefront of his actions, not worrying if he was the most popular faculty, working instead to get the best out of his students and serving his institution with full commitment. There's no question in my mind that people like that are the ones who make the most significant contributions to society and the younger generations, because they predicate their beliefs not with ideology or circumstance, but the firm, undisputed conviction that the character of a human being must be shaped by hard work and the pursuit of something bigger than the self. Sung Ho has always understood this, and I am sure that he will continue to apply these values in all his endeavors as the new Raymond E. Merritt's Professor of Architecture. Thank you. And now I would like to ask Dean Colangelo to come back to the podium.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Adrian. We're also honored to be joined today by Washington University Provost Beverly Wendland. I'd like to invite Provost Wendland to the stage to present Sung Ho with the Raymond E. Merritt's Professor of Architecture. Yay.
So it is my honor to bestow this medallion upon you as a signatory of being a holder of this professorship. On the front, this medallion reads, Raymond E. Merritt's Professor of Architecture. Architecture, Sam Fox School of Design and Visual Arts. And on the back it reads, Sung Ho Kim, March 27th, 2023. Velcro that makes this a little easy.
Thank you, Beverly. And now I would like to formally introduce Professor Sung Ho Kim as the Raymond E. Meritz Professor of Architecture, who will now present his address, Eudaimonic Practice. And here is Sung Ho Kim.
I would like to say thank you to Carmen and Beverly. This is a great honor. And to Adrian, I hope I could fill your shoes. And at the same time, I would like to say thank you to Stephen Lee and Adrian Lucchini for their retirement. And I hope I could become supportive and loving colleague as they were to me for the last 23 years. And people say that to raise a child, you need a village. But to raise a Raymond E. Meritz professor, you need an entire city of St. Louis. And I would like to thank all my friends, my family, and my students who have bared with me through all these years. And I thank you for your love and inspiration. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a video. So I grew up in Seoul, Korea, where I was born. And during 1970s, Korea was becoming an industrialized nation. And there was a lot of architecture that was borrowed from Western society. A lot of the old traditional architecture was being erased. I didn't really understand why we were leaving when we were leaving Seoul. My grandfather was a part of the community that dealt with Korean politics because he was a newspaper journalist. And he found that by the age I became in college, that there would be a revolution to bring democracy to Korea. And they felt that me being the first grandchild, that they thought I should leave my homeland to escape that kind of struggle that I would be affected by. When I first came, I was about 7 years old. We lived in Bronx, New York, and I was the only Asian kid yet. And then from Bronx, we moved to New Jersey. And then when we got there, we were the only Asian family in the whole county. It was very difficult for me to fit in anywhere. Even calling myself Korean American was very hard because I just never felt like I was American because everybody called you Korean in the United States. And for the longest time, I didn't know how to deal with that emotional dilemma of, where do you belong and how do you help being in a world where you can make a difference. And then not until I had a long conversation with my grandfather when he told me that you shouldn't worry about that. You should worry about how you want to live your life because there are people out there sacrificing their lives for you so you could have a better life. My grandfather was a pretty amazing person in the sense that he was a photojournalist and he survived the Korean War. He was kidnapped and tortured by the North Koreans. They put 3 sewing needles into his blood vessels and released them. The ideal is that the needles would hit his organs sometime. They don't know when. So he became an alcoholic for 2 years because he thought he was going to die. And then he survived for 15 years. And one day he had a pinched nerve on his elbow. He went to the doctor and they said all 3 needles converged onto his elbow. And that they were able to pull out the needles. He had this kind of a incredible struggle, and he told me that if you're not enjoying every day of your life, that you're wasting your time. And that's the way I wanted to always teach my students. It's not about skill sets or techniques, but it's about teaching passion and enjoying the work that they're producing and the research they're engaging in. I received my Bachelor's of Fine Arts and Bachelor's of Architecture from Rhode Island School of Design, and it was a very important time for me because I was with people who love making, and they were totally engaged in the notion of crafting their art. It gave me a validation that way I live means something. So after RISD, I went to Architectural Association of London, and what I found was that architecture was more than making of buildings. They really engaged the notion of the city and the landscape because they invested more time in understanding cultural and urbanistic ideas about making architecture. And for me, that was a very important part of my education because I've always thought architecture was building making, but not to, engage it with its urban conditions. One of the reasons I came back to the United States was that my father was diagnosed with cancer. So I applied to MIT to do research. And when I came back, I spent some time with my father and I started school at MIT. And what was interesting was that MIT wasn't a design school, it was a platform for research. So I was in architecture, but I was doing history and theory, also applied science for aeronautics and material science, which gave me a lot of opportunity to really look at design in a more expansive way and engaging design as a kind of a mechanism to have conversation about changes and advancing the environment. At MIT, the research I engaged was on cartographing the wind. I was really interested at aerodynamics and how that was represented. At MIT, yes, we were using simulations of air movements, but I wanted to really calculate every flow of air and map it as a line on a drawing. So I was trying to invent a kind of a drawing process to unfold complexity of airflow. Through material science, we were able to test how flow of material changes through gravity. So when I was using the wind tunnel experiments, we were using the special plexiglass with an X-ray, and you could see the flow of the material, the micro flow of the material affected by the wind movement. So you see these invisible stress formations being represented through studying this kind of aerodynamic condition through X-rays and stuff. So when I was in class for history and theory for Michael Lija's theory of art, I got a a note from one of a dean's assistants saying that I have to go to the airport ASAP. And I didn't know why. I had a suspicion it was something to do with my father. But I took the flight and I landed in New York, and my sister picked me up. He waited until I could get there from Boston to New York City, and he passed away while I was holding him. And it was, different understanding of living, because we should be frightened of dying, but the way he passed away was so peaceful that it was almost like a relief. Yeah. So like death wasn't frightening for me after experiencing that. So what happened was when after his funeral, I went back to school and I decided to change the path of my research, like 360 degrees. What happened was that during that time I met Professor Krzysztof Wojcicki, and he was really interested in the projects I was doing, like kind of hybrid between science and art and architecture and design. And he asked me to join his lab called Interrogative Design Group at MIT's Media Lab. And I joined, and I was able to make machines that gave voices to people who couldn't speak. So whether you're immigrant or whether you were sick or you couldn't speak the language. And I was with him for 5 years doing projections in monuments using people's voice that, people weren't able to do. One of the first projects I did was a voice recording machine for my father. We designed these recording devices that you could record your feelings or how you're feeling. And then you wear it at part of your body that has the pain. And then we're using low frequency speakers to actually kind of use your whole body as a acoustic chamber. MIT has annually a competition called 1000K competition. So I was still a grad student, and I was working at the Interrogative Design Group lab, and we got basically a visit from a professor from the School of Business and a professor from a School of Engineer. And then they both came and said, Sung Ho, we're doing this project about GIS. They want to sell the territories in Boston, this invisible territory that they'll map out. And then they wanted to install this kind of a special screen on taxi cabs. And then when the taxi cabs moved through the zones, they would sell it out. So say McDonald's by 40 zones, all the taxi cab signages would be all on McDonald's. Design just wasn't a execution of aesthetics, but design became this kind of a everyday use of how information, commercialization, and culture could be unfolded. I thought I was an architect, but doing these projects really unleashed that architecture itself is so important, because when we were developing the prototype, my skill from organizing space helped me to organize where does the battery go, where does the computer sit, where does all the infrastructure and the cooling fans, where are they located. My education wasn't so far off. Like the things I learned was part of everything that leads to making technology more advanced. Heather and I restructured Axiomi when we got to St. Louis, and Heather's been a very important mentor for me because she really taught me how to listen and how to design for a person or inhabitant, because she designs from inside out while I design from outside. And just learning that was very powerful for me, that I could really understand that architecture is not a form-based exercise, but a spatial exercise. And at the same time, she is someone who could really read people's desires and what they're thinking. And sometimes I lack those facilities because I'm so focused on how to execute it. Our partnership is very important for how we produce and develop projects. It's like she's like my kind of guardian angel that helps me seeing options and learn from those things where sometimes I just don't see. Axiomi was founded for a reason that I felt there was something missing in education and practice. There's always school or there's the practice. So Axiomi is this kind of a hybrid where you're still learning, but in a kind of a research methodology in terms of not commercial. And how do you learn through making? One of the reasons Axiomi was founded was that having a practice that was partially research would help people to understand that environments could be always rethought. The things that I missed in my own education and practice, I wanted a kind of a stepping stone or transitional experience for people. So we don't engage in all professional projects, but research projects. And sometimes we do client-based projects. It's a kind of a studio that works in multiple ways. And we could do experiments and research while most corporate firms can't really be doing that. And we engage in a lot of competitions to kind of tease out some of our ideas about architecture. For Axiomi, engaging the community is very important because architecture is about the place. And what we try to do is we try to work with people or any institutions that need help to revision or envision their space or develop projects that needs that kind of guidance or collaboration. To have a very powerful practice that could influence the young students and how you could challenge them to not to just settle for the most comfortable way of life and taking risks, and to have a practice that could kind of model that for them. For young people, they need to see, and they need to see that there's successes, there's struggles, but they're all important. You can't just be successful. You have to have struggles to be a better person or a better designer or a better academic or a better student. So a practice that could really demonstrate what is to become partially embedded in academia, but it could influence the professional world. And that's really important because right now it's the profession or the academia. And then that's the bridge we have to come together. It has to be a hybrid, and one has to carry the other. In life, you can't do things alone, and you need people that love you, people that believe in you, and people that trust you. And only way to gain that is you have to love yourself and share yourself with others. Architecture is one of the most comprehensive process that could endorse that, because you're not just giving yourself, you're giving your vision to share, to sculpt the community or how people live. And by doing that, you have to able to find happiness of just doing it, not because there's monetary reason of getting a grade or making money or getting power. People have to understand that, there's other reasons why you have to enjoy what you're doing. And I think that's the most important thing. And when that becomes a kind of ethos of the world, I believe there will be no wars or any struggles that what we're going through that's happening right now, because everybody would just believe in themselves, and they're able to share that moment. One of my professors actually told me that teaching isn't just a job. It's our duty as an architect to influence and aspire the next generation. If that stops, that we will not advance the discourse of making and designing the environment. We'll be succumb to commercialization and financial gains of architectural practice. So for me, teaching was this kind of revolt and a revolution against commercial flow of building of environments, and made me feel like being a teacher was very important aspects of how architecture becomes an important part of the social condition and the cultural aspects of the world. At Washington University, I started to work with computer scientists at the engineering school, especially with Yasu. He was a professor there, but he left, and he was one of the founding engineers for Google Earth. And I asked him, can we change that software, scan a two-dimensional drawing that's in a perspective, and to able to read that into a three-dimensional model? We were scanning architects' drawings, and the students don't have to build a digital model, but the software will rebuild the digital data from the two-dimensional to three-dimensional. So I've been teaching biology with Ram Dixit for the last 10 years now. And I always say that Ram is a closet architect. He's a biologist, but he loves drawings and how images tell a story. And what we're trying to do is kind of look at how biological materials could be engineered for environmental uses, whether it sucks up radioactive material or polluted air and water, or even COVID particles. So we wanted to kind of find design and science merging together to find a new kind of environment, basically. Thank you very much.
Well, in closing, Sung Ho, thanks first of all for sharing your personal story and the depth and beauty and the impact on Washington University I mentioned, but your impact on St. Louis. Many would agree in this room you and Heather have had such an important impact on St. Louis and the future. I met you, I remember, in front of Givens Hall 16 years ago, so I'm looking forward to the next 16 to see the impact you're going to have in this new role. Thank you for this incredible presentation. Thank you for being so dedicated as a teacher and as a father. And again, we want to celebrate with you, so I hope everyone now will join us in the Mildred Lane Kemper Art Museum for a celebration of Sung Ho in his new role as a Raymond E. Merritt's professor. And let's hear it for Sung Ho one more time.